Hello, everyone. Welcome to Europas Awards. Mike Butcher from TechCrunch. And we have a fantastic panel. I will just do them quickly again. Videesha Bockle from Signals Venture Capital. Mignot from Index Ventures. Reshma Sohoni from Seedcamp. Malin Holmberg from Target Global VC. Caye Hurtado from Balderton Capital. And finally, myself. This is for the benefit of the live stream and for the recording. I hope you can hear back at home. We're going to talk about a couple of things. Let's do the serious bit stuff first, shall we? Extinction Rebellion. How many people saw that? Amazing, wasn't it? And Reshma, do you think that that's kind of done a...
I shouldn't have nodded.
Shouldn't have nodded, I know. Do you think that's kind of created a sea change in how people are thinking about this? Some of these scientists now say we've now got about 11 years, 10, 11, 12 years left to really address climate change. How are tech startups going to do it? Are they going to get involved?
I mean, I am optimistic. I think you always solve the problems you focus on. And so I think the dialogue that we're having with not just, a few thousand people, but a few million, a few billion people means we will focus on this problem, and we are. So, absolutely, we've seen startups come to us more and more in increasing numbers, trying to solve various problems around climate change. Cup Club is one of our investments in that space, which is really targeting single-use cups, which is obviously a massive problem, right? So, but we're definitely seeing it across the board. And I think the one point I'll make is greedy VCs. We see a huge commercial opportunity.
You're not a greedy VC.
No, not me. Just
You're a very nice greedy
on
VC.
behalf of greedy VCs, I will say it's a huge commercial opportunity. So there is a lot of money to be made in solving the climate problem.
So to that point, I would say that one of our areas of focus over the past few years have been transportation, which is, as we know, the number one source of emissions, and we've probably been one of the most active investors in the transportation space, trying to make transport more efficient, more electric. So whether it's BlaBlaCar, Citymapper, Bird, Cowboy, Trainline, we've invested in all of these companies, which are all in their own way making a small dent.
But Malin, is it really a focus? Because is it just taking advantage of an opportunity?
Well, I think if you look at the younger generation, if I may say so, I don't belong to that. I'm very old. But if I look at the younger generation, they are really driven by, passionately driven by doing the right thing, and want to work for companies who are really, who gels with their inner feeling, much more than I think we did in my generation in the past. So I think the drive of change will come from the startups. And I think the second thing I would say is if you look at corporates, they looked at CSR or corporate social responsibility 10 years ago. There was nothing happening there. And then, the investing funds started to push and say, we want to see this, we want to see this change. And then people started putting CSR as something, but it wasn't real. And now, 10 years later, I think many companies actually have a really active corporate social responsibility agenda. And I think, VC is still young. So it will take some time, but it will come from all the people in the startups, but also from the demand from the investor side.
Videesha, Berlin is famously known, you need to grab your microphone there, is famously known as being a very sort of green place, everyone cycles everywhere. How are those scooters getting on over there, by the way? How many deaths are happening at the moment?
So far, it's early days. They've just launched in Berlin.
Who's launched?
Cirque have launched. We're investor in Cirque along with Target Global. And you've also got Tier that have launched, Voy. So it's all up to play for at the moment. So,
yeah. And is the environment or climate or sustainability something you take an interest in as an investor?
It's definitely something that I take an interest in because if you look at, it's a global problem, right? So you have a lot of people emerging now into the middle classes, not only in Europe, and I think we're focused here as European investors, but also in China, in India, and globally. And I think we're going to start seeing solutions, as we're seeing in technology, that are global from day one, that are trying to solve these issues, emerging in other areas. And definitely we see in solutions in India, I definitely see trying to tackle that issue of sustainability. And in Germany, of course, that's an issue that people are very close to. We recycle a lot in Germany.
The Green Party is
Yes.
experiencing a resurgence. Reshma?
I was at a conference last week, and the CEO of Walmart was there. They are the third largest employer in the world, behind the U.S. Army and the Chinese Army. And Hurricane Katrina, a human event, a climate event, was the event in that business. And it catalyzed an incredibly different way of thinking about running that business for them. And then over the last 10 years since Hurricane Katrina, Walmart's really gone on the forefront of a lot of innovation, disruption of their own sort of supply units and waste management units and so forth. So, it's coming from everywhere. And to see the third largest employer do that is powerful.
Caye, what's your view on the subject?
Yeah, I think also I completely agree with everything they said, but there are also the ways that we look at this from, like, say, for example, fashion, the fact that new companies are generating ways to recycle fashion. For example, Depop, Vestiaire Collective, that are companies in our portfolio. They're very focused on, taking one of the industries that is known to be one of the ones that pollute the most and how to make it better through leveraging technology, even if it's a marketplace or empowering consumers to sell some of those items they don't want anymore.
None of this stuff is going to work until we get the governments on board, isn't it? Do you have the ear of government at Index Ventures? Are they listening to us?
I actually disagree with that. I mean, and that was going to be one of my points, which is, I think for example, Extinction Rebellion, what they've done, I think it's good in raising awareness, but I think they're totally wrong on the solutions to the problem. I think a lot of these parties and these movements are extremely left-wing and anti-capitalist. And I think that's wrong. I think the entrepreneurs and corporates are actually the one who have the most impetus and the most ability to change and to solve the problems. As we know, entrepreneurs are here to solve problems.
We've got to convince the anti-capitalists that the entrepreneurs are on their side somehow.
Yeah, exactly.
Do you think?
Yeah.
What do you think? Is that an answer? I don't know. Somebody
That's
help
my
me.
answer, at least.
Well, moving swiftly on, let's talk briefly now quickly about what sort of a year we've had. It's been a year since the last Europas shindig.
We're still in the EU.
We're still in the EU. Yes. It's working. It's working.
What is a shindig?
The secret plan is working.
Shindig is a party.
We're still in the EU. Apologies to all those lovely leavers out there and Brexiters. We do love you, all one of you. Now, what sort of a year have we had? Anyone? Has it been a fantastic year? Has it been an incredible year since last summer? You don't remember? What do you think, Videesha? You started your fund
In 2017.
2 years
yeah.
out.
And it's been a phenomenal time for us. We have already deployed a third of the fund. We've invested in 6 investments so far. Great co-investors. And what's interesting about our portfolio is just how international our co-investors are. We've got some Chinese capital in there. We're co-investors with Baidu Ventures and also Ping An. And so we definitely see that the year has been fantastic for us in terms of just the ambition of founders that we're backing and the type of companies that people are building. Yeah. It's just become so diverse. Berlin used to be the place where you'd go and you'd build e-commerce companies, or you'd look at solutions in the US and you'd just copy them. And we're just not seeing that in Berlin anymore.
Malin, Target Global, you launched properly in London, didn't you?
Yeah, we did about 3 months ago. We had our full launch. We've been here for a little bit longer, but now we've had an amazing year. I mean, we started off in Berlin 6 years ago, and then now the last year built up our office much stronger in Tel Aviv, and then launched in London, opening an office in Barcelona as well, and have seen a lot of interesting investments and much larger deals than in the past. So like, in discussions when we looked at Auto One, where you see cooperation between the new companies and actually the old companies like banks and insurance companies coming up with new things together. And we're seeing this trend quite strongly. And a lot within insurance as well, like with WeFox, one of our investments. And I think we'll see a lot more coming within insurance and the sharing economy as well.
Okay, Balderton, how's that going?
We see it's going.
You just like having loads of mics,
I know.
don't you?
I love having. But this
Is that one
doesn't
not
work.
working?
Yeah. So doesn't work. Works.
Oh, okay, right.
There you go.
One of them needs to be turned up.
Yeah, we love having a lot of things. Anyways, great year. We've seen that from the level of activity from European funds, as they were pointing out. We've also seen a lot of US and Asian capital coming to Europe, which is always also a good sign, as like the talent pool is here and the tech ecosystem is really booming in Europe. At Balderton particularly, we also launched our liquidity fund, which is the first European dedicated fund to buy like secondaries really out of like early stage founders, early stage employees, and business angels mostly. So that's really exciting also for the ecosystem, I believe. So it's been a great year.
Fantastic. And Martin, exactly how many exits has Index been involved in the last year? Enormous numbers.
I think last year we had 8 IPOs and
8 IPOs, not too bad.
And a few other exits. So it's been a good year. I mean, I think the reality, it's been a good year.
Did you get a new microwave?
It's been a good year for everyone. I think that's the thing. You know, I look at businesses that have raised money over the past 6 months, and I looked at pretty much all, you know, most of them, and thought, I'm not sure, and then they all ended up raising and doing great. So I think we're just lucky to be, you know, one in an industry that's growing fast and that's going everywhere, and two at a time of the market where it's just a flow of money that's coming through and that's lifting all boats. So
Brexit's not going to happen. That affect that.
I mean, we invest half in the US, half in Europe, and UK is maybe less than half of our European investment. So we look at the overall European markets.
Yeah.
And for, you know, very early stage companies, I don't think it's going to have such an impact in the short term.
I disagree. I mean, we have a founder in this room. He's come in from New York. He set up his company between Stanford people, Berlin people, but he set up his company in London, and I'm talking about you guys. And they were at Seedcamp for a while. They really wanted to build out of London, but a lot of the uncertainty around Brexit and visas and what was their, what was going to happen to their team with visas and being able to settle in London, they moved out. Into New York and Berlin again. They just got a term sheet from a West Coast VC, and that's a company gone, right? So no European VC after Seedcamp's been able to come in, and they have VCs out of the West Coast fighting for them. So I mean, that's a pool of employees you'll never see grow here to what you've seen with TransferWise and Revolut and companies like that. I disagree. I mean, I think I fear a potential ghost town. I really do with loss of talent like that.
Do you think that the issue is that I always think that London especially is like a big sort of super tanker. It takes an hour to turn left. So we haven't really seen the effects there, but they might start to play. We'll have to think seriously about that. Videesha, you're in Berlin. You know what's going on.
Well, we've got
Are you getting a lot of English accents all of a sudden?
Yeah, we've got a different viewpoint there. But I was just going to say that in Berlin, it takes 25,000 euros to set up a GmbH, a company there, and to officially set it up. So a lot of startups, they try and find a loophole, which is they set up a limited, and they're based in Berlin. And now the biggest question is, what are you going to do with these limiteds that are in Berlin? And do you have to change some of the legislation because of the imminent Brexit?
Yeah. Well, it's okay because it's not going to happen. We'll stop it somehow. But have to join techforuk.com. Little advert. Right now, look, finally, everybody, let's ending on an upbeat. What do you see in the year ahead? What sort of, apart from the B word, what sort of things are happening in the next few months, next year? What are you excited about? And how can all these, Blockchain. Oh, blockchain, yes. No, I hear this. This is going to be hot, everybody, okay? Go and buy this thing called Bitcoin. What were you going to say?
Yeah,
Malin?
I'm going to start with something that's really unsexy, but I think the smart manufacturing is quite exciting.
Smart manufacturing.
Yes, and what's happening there, when you see with artificial intelligence, with the Internet of Things, edge computing coming together and coming with solutions, robotics, additive manufacturing, all of this space. It's very early, but I think Europe has a big role to play here.
Europe is amazing at that stuff. Reshma.
Yeah, I mean, I think, on the hardware side or software side, we've got the world's fastest growing enterprise company, UiPath, out of Romania, right? And it's a massive workforce in Romania, in London, multiple in France, etc. So multiple offices across Europe. And it's just it's building into a huge business, and it's a platform. I think we've always complained, why don't we have platform businesses in Europe? And that is a truly platform business. So excited about that. I think personalized health and the movement, continuous movement towards an individualized health journey is probably the biggest opportunity humanity has had.
Fantastic. We've got Gemma from Health Hackers. Say hi, Gemma. She's doing Health Hackers. That's a big trend.
Yeah.
Videesha?
I would say medicinal cannabis.
Medicinal
it's
cannabis.
Be huge.
I'm into that.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm into that. Sounds good.
I also think new ecosystem coming up and doing more out of like countries that are not looked at after by investors. So was recently in Portugal, and I think it's really booming ecosystem. They're managing to do that. More Southern Europe, also Eastern Europe. So more coming out of that.
Lisbon is hot and getting hotter, apparently. Finally, did you have a word on this?
Yeah, I mean, I'm obsessed.
year?
I'm unhealthily obsessed about transportation and electric vehicles of all
You're
sorts.
obsessed about e-scooters.
No, I mean, it's not. I mean, people obsess. I mean, people make fun of scooters. I mean, scooters is just one of them. I mean, I also invest in an e-bike company, and then they're now coming up with all of these hybrid weird things, which some of them are just monstrosities, and some are quite nice looking. And I think that's a new device that's going to be very, very mainstream, and I think it's going to change the way cities operate. So I'm very bullish about that.
Fantastic. Well, finally, thank you very much. Please, ladies and gentlemen, please say thank you very much to our panelists. Thank you so much. Thank you.